Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first annual Menstrual Awareness Symposium. My name is Maylene Hall, and I'm the director of the symposium, as well as the president of the Period chapter at CanyonHighSchool. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Period, Birds and Bees Connection, Girl Scouts of Orange County, HOSA, and NatraCare. Without them, this event wouldn't be possible, and I'm so grateful for their help. This symposium is hosted by the Period chapter, Period at Canyon High School, and Canyon High School's HOSA chapter. Thank you all so much for coming, and I hope you all enjoy and learn something new. Today, the one and only Katie Hoff will be speaking today about the topic sports and period. Katie Hoff is an Olympic medalist, speaker, and author. Katie brings the energy and charisma you associate with an elite athlete, coupled with the friendly charms and straight talk of a good friend. She spent 15 years relentlessly driving her own performance in competitive swimming, from local star to national darling to international champion in her sport. She is an open book, and her sincere mission in each appearance is to bring her A game to the session, prepared to talk with candor about the good, the bad, and sometimes unbearable middle place in between accomplishments. Katie is an 8 times world champion, former world record holder, current American record holder, and 2 times Olympian, and earned a silver and 2 bronze Olympic medals in swimming. Hailed as the female Michael Phelps, she withstood tremendous pressure and emerged from years of efforts with valuable lessons learned on what it takes to succeed and power through bitter disappointment. Now, before we start, I would like to remind everyone to keep your microphones on mute throughout the presentation. And if you have any questions, please type them in the chat, and one of my associate directors, Tiffany, will read them out loud for Katie Hoff at the end of the presentation. And now I present to you Ms. Katie Hoff.
Thank you so much. Thanks for spending your evening with me. I'm coming to you from Michigan. So it is later on this evening for me, but very excited to be chatting with you all. I think it's a fun topic, right? Maybe a topic that not everyone talks about. But there are 4 billion women, right? There's 8 billion women, or 8 billion people across the world right now. 4 billion of them are women. And, we've all experienced that kind of that change, that timing of having a period. But I think the really special thing and really empowering thing is, as females, we go through a lot, right? We go through a lot of discomfort. We go through a lot of changes that the boys just don't have to deal with. But yet we can still be, confident. We can still be empowered. We can still be strong. We can still be athletes. And that's, to me, what sets, don't tell the boys this, but what sets women apart, right? Like we can multitask. We can do a lot of things. We can handle a lot of things. And I think today, I want to talk about 2 very specific ideals, elements, 2 things that really allowed me to stay confident through, my youth when I was going through all these changes, along with, trying to make an Olympic team. But for me, making the Olympic team was my goal, right? It always was my goal from the time I was, in diapers, right? 5 years old, to the moment when I made that team. And so, for you guys, maybe your Olympics, your big goal is something else. And that's amazing, right? I think the biggest difference, or the biggest similarity, right, is how you get to that goal, what your mentality looks like, how you operate on a daily basis. All of those things are the same. Like the same way that I went after my dream of becoming an Olympic medalist and a world record holder, they're pretty simple, right? And so I'll share 2 of them with you today. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I think I'll just start from the top, right? So when I was 7 years old, I started swimming competitively year-round. And at the time, I wasn't super competitive. I was just in love with getting ribbons that were pink and purple. And for those of you who were not swimmers, like pink and purple is like 7th and 8th place. Like I didn't have that competitive streak. I just loved swimming. I was just passionate about swimming. It was something I enjoyed doing with my friends, right? I'm sure you guys can all relate. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's something that you do at school, maybe it's something you do with your friends, you play an instrument, right? Like that's the point I want to drive home to you guys. Like it doesn't matter what it is, as long as you feel this passion towards it. Maybe it's the Girl Scouts, right? Like as long as you have this attachment, this feeling that gets you so excited on a daily basis, that's what you want to focus on. And for me, that was swimming. So as I went on, the first element that I learned was not to preserve my reserve. So what do I mean by that? Not to preserve my reserve, meaning don't hold back that little extra bit. Now that little extra bit is really uncomfortable, right? It's kind of, it hurts maybe, it's a little out of your comfort zone, it makes you super out of breath. And I actually I feel like going through the changes that we go through with our bodies, right? Getting your period for the first time, not knowing what to do, feeling a little bit scared, kind of teaches you how to be outside your comfort zone, right? Because you don't have a choice, right? As a woman, as a girl growing up, you just get thrust into this and you're like, what's going on? Like, why do I have cramps? Why do I feel emotional? Why is all this going on? And I would say that was probably all happening at the same time that I was learning how to work really hard in the pool. So, as you guys are growing up and you're attacking your goals, you guys you're just training for your future, right? It's just setting you up. And if you look at it that way, it's kind of exciting because you get this crash course in just attacking being uncomfortable, right? And so when I had a very specific moment when I learned this, and I'll never forget, I was swimming back and forth in the pool with my coach. I had just watched the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. I think I bet most of you weren't even born in 2000, right? So I think that for me, watching the Olympics when I was that young sparked this, oh my gosh, like I want to have my last name on my cap. I want to have, Team USA, an Olympic flag on my cap. Like, that just made me so excited. And as you guys start to grow, you're going to have those moments, if you haven't already, where something just sparks you and you just become like, it lights a fire inside of you. And for me, it was this moment where I'm watching the Olympics, they're happening. I'm like, oh, I would love to go to the Olympics. Well, what does that mean? What does that entail? And I was, going up and down in practice, super tired, super exhausted, super uncomfortable. And my coach said something that I will never forget. And it's the way that he posed the questions, like, are you giving it your all? Like, are you going all out, emptying the tank? And I remember taking a pause and going, man, am I giving it my all? I had this moment of questioning if I was giving that full effort, if I was pushing it and not preserving every last amount in that reserve tank, right? You guys been driving in a car where, your parents are like, oh man, we're short on gas, right? Like we've got to stop at the gas station. Like I want you guys to empty the tank, no reserve, like go on empty. Like that's what it takes to accomplish your goals. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna test this out. I'm gonna try it a little bit. So the next repeat that we did, I kicked a little harder, I pulled a little harder, and it was way more painful. Like my heart was beating out of my chest, my lungs were burning, but I ultimately did a lot better and I started beating people. And so what I learned from that was, wow, like if I push it to that extra limit, and if I go into that moment of being really, really uncomfortable, it's going to yield results. I'm going to start beating people. I'm going to be going best times, right? And that mentality took me all the way to making my first Olympic team at just 15 years old. Now, you guys can take that same mentality, right? The same mentality you take when you've gone through what you've gone through with kind of working through getting a period, having your body change, right? All those things are really uncomfortable. But if you have this confidence already in you, right? This empowerment of like, I can do anything. Like I have fought through, a lot of discomfort in every aspect of my life. Like nothing is going to stop me in my tracks. It's a pretty powerful thing to feel in your mind, right? Because as you guys know, and you will continue to know, life throws a lot of curveballs. Like things, you might be walking along and things are good. And then, something happens, right? That maybe you weren't expecting. But if you have this feeling of feeling like you're almost invincible, almost bulletproof, it feels a lot less stressful to walk through life, right? Because you have this skill set of knowing how to go into that place of discomfort. So I want you guys to think about, a goal that you have right now in your life. It could be something super small. It could be something super big. But whatever that goal is in your mind, think about what it might take to accomplish that. And then think about if you accomplish it, how does that make you feel? So a goal that you're willing to go into that really intense discomfort for is a goal that maybe scares you a little bit, right? Thinking about making an Olympic team was really scary when I was, 10 and 11 years old, right? But if the goal scares you a little bit, then it's probably exciting enough to make you want to put it all out there, right? So that's one. Number two is what I call embracing the suck. Embracing the suck, right? Embracing the suck just means embracing, kind of similar to what we talked about where you're not preserving your reserve, but embracing that when life does happen and maybe things don't go how you plan, that curveball takes you into a little bit of a tailspin, embrace that, right? Like think about, and maybe some of you, I don't know if some of you haven't gotten your period or you have, right? But like the first couple times that you experience that, let's just face it, it sucks, right? Like you don't feel like yourself. Maybe you're a little emotional. Guys, the amount of times that I have broken down crying because I'm just a little bit more emotional that week has happened so many times. You're going through changes. That's a part of growing up, right? But embracing that versus resisting it makes it so much better. And finding the positive in what has happened to you, like the positive of growing up and getting a period and becoming a woman means that you guys are becoming women, right? You're getting older. You're going to be able to one day have kids if you want to. Like all those things are really, really cool. And for me, my first Olympics that I made didn't go how I wanted it to. I got really, really nervous to the point where I threw up all over the pool deck in front of millions of people at the Olympic Games and didn't swim my best. And I was so freaked out and so nervous that I would never be able to recover from that. But guess what? I came home, I talked to my coach, and we devised a plan and said, okay, this is just your first experience. It's your first Olympics. It's okay to be nervous. We're going to do a set that's so hard and we're going to embrace that suck, right? That process so that you won't get nervous for this big race for your second Olympic Games. And sure enough, I embraced it. It was really, really painful, but I was still able to get back up and show myself that I was tough, right? And so again, when you go to those great lengths and you put yourself in uncomfortable positions, I saw someone just say, is it painful to run or swim? There's some discomfort, right? But if you have the mentality of kind of embracing this, you guys are all super tough, right? You're super strong. So there might be moments of discomfort, but it is never going to stand in the way of you guys doing what you want to do. And that going back to kind of what I started talking to you guys at the start of my talk, like that just like wear that as like a medal of honor. Like that just means that you guys boys don't have to deal with that, right? So you can still do everything you want to do. There might be moments of discomfort, but it just makes you that much stronger, that much more empowered, and that much tougher to do whatever you guys want to do in your life, right? Like I think that's something you think about, thinking about a period or thinking about a big race or thinking about a big back test, or thinking about, you know, something that's coming up that makes you a little nervous and makes you scared, that's okay, right? If you kind of rip off the Band-Aid and you go through it, then you show yourself that it's not that bad. It's so easy to build something up in your head if you haven't experienced it before, or it's new. Trust me, I've done it, right? I've built something up and thought, oh my God, this is like, I did it, right? With the Olympics. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's going to be so terrible. And because I built it up in my head, it didn't go as planned. But if you, once you guys go through it, you guys all show yourself that it's possible, and you show yourself that having a period is just something that you have, and it's something you have as a woman and as a female. But if anything, it's your superpower. It's what makes you stronger, because it's something that you've embraced. It's something that you've been able to fight through. And it's, you know, one of the reasons why I think that females are, you know, the strongest species on the planet, right? So I'll leave you with one more story of kind of embracing the suck. You know, one of my first world championships that I went to right after I had a really tough first Olympic Games. You know, you heard my bio, I've won 8 gold medals across multiple world championships, and this was my first one, and I was 16 years old. And I get there, I was in Montreal, Canada, and guess what happens 2 days before the meet? Got my period, right? So I'm about to swim, and I'm about to try to break American records. I'm about to try to race for gold medals. And I get my period. And guess what? Thought for a second, oh man, that sucks, right? I got to deal with this thing, but I dealt with it. I had a little cramping. It's okay. I got in there and focused on the task at hand in front of me. And the task at hand was to swim for Team USA and to win gold medals. And guess what? I won 3 gold medals at that meet, right? So just a little, you know, a little monthly visitor, right? It didn't stop me from accomplishing my goals. And I think if I could leave you guys with one thing, this one thing is that I think sometimes it, you know, having a period, or, you know, getting older, you know, developing hips, right? Getting, you know, becoming a woman, becoming, you know, a female, it is not anything that stands in your way, guys. Like, it is never going to be something that stands in your way. And there might be, like I said, Shirley had a good question, like, if you have cramps, is it right away? It's very different for every person. I think that's the other thing, right, that kind of makes it a little scary, is like, well, my friend had this experience and my other friend didn't have anything. And so you're kind of sitting there thinking like, well, if you haven't gotten it yet, like, what's it going to mean for me? And my message to you guys is like, whatever it is, you guys will handle it, because you've been doing all of these things in preparation, right? You've been tough. You've been thinking about the little things. You've been embracing the suck. You've been emptying the tank and everything that you're doing, going after a goal. So when it comes to this thing that happens to 4 billion people across the planet, I promise you guys, it is nothing to be afraid of. And you'll have other people to lean on, right? You'll have your friends, you'll have your parents, you'll have people that mentor you, you'll have people like me talking about it freely. It's nothing that you guys can't handle. And I promise it's not scary. It's just how you look at it, right? Like, if I had looked at my first Olympics as, oh my gosh, you know, I failed in such a large way in front of my country, right? I turned and looked at it as, no, like, this is a lesson. I failed for now, but it's just taught me how to train even harder, and how to train in a way that made me confident and not scared to swim at the Olympic Games. And that's why I was able to come back and win Olympic medals at my second Olympic Games. So if you guys look at growing up and getting a period as scary and uncomfortable and something that's like you want to run away from, it'll probably be pretty scary and something you want to run away from, right? But if you look at it as this badge of honor, this superpower, this thing that means that you're that much tougher, then you'll be able to handle it no problem. It's just all how your perspective is, what your mindset is, and just understanding that if you embrace it, you guys will be in a really good spot, and you guys will be able to take on any goal that you want, that you truly put your mind to, you truly embrace it, and you truly do not preserve your reserve. And I'm excited to see what you guys all do in your futures. And I'm excited to chat with you guys and answer any questions that you have. There's really nothing off limits with me, so you can ask me whatever you want, whether it's about swimming, it's about life, it's about periods, it's about growing up. I'm an open book. So I'd love to answer some questions, but I just want to thank you guys so much for inviting me onto your meeting tonight. The very first one, what an honor. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll take some questions now. So Allison says, great questions right out of the bat. I love it. So Allison says, how long did it take you to accomplish your goal? So my goal was the Olympics. I set my goal to make an Olympic team when I was 9, and I accomplished it 6 years later. So 6 years later. But something that I want to add to that piece is, it's really important, like when you have a big goal like that, right? Whatever that might be, setting little goals is really important, right? Like I wasn't like Olympic team. I set a lot of little goals along the way so that I could keep experiencing a win and keep accomplishing progression. That's really important, because think about if I just had the goal to make the Olympic team, how disappointing and unmotivating would that be, right? Like being able to set like, okay, this month I want to get this much faster in the pool with my freestyle kick, right? Like setting those little progress goals are I wouldn't even say important, are essential in order for you all to accomplish a goal. It's a great question. I saw Shirley ask a question about the cramps. Again, the cramps is very different for everybody. You know, I know I had one of my really good friends had you know, more painful cramps. I had myself, I actually didn't have it as bad, but now I have it later in life, and it's a little more painful for the first couple days. But it's nothing like this super sharp pain, guys. It's not, right? It kind of feels like a dull just ache, and it's just kind of like you're just like, I'm trying to think if like you know, it's like trying to think of the best analogy here, but it's nothing that it's just more like annoying. You're kind of like, oh, like, can this just go away already, right? And it's nothing that all of you can handle it, is what I'll say. I had a good question from Sriya, I think I'm saying that right. Sorry if I'm not. It's okay to not have a goal yet. Also, if you have a goal you think that you might be too old to start training for it by the time you're able to. So first of all, it's totally okay if you don't have a goal yet, right? I think so when I retired from swimming, I was older, right? I was 25. But then I was like, now what? I didn't have a goal anymore, right? So I had to figure out what's my next goal, because I had so long where my goal was swimming for Team USA, going to the Olympics. I had to reconstruct that, and I had to be just as relentless and focused to find a new goal as I was when I was chasing after my Olympic team goal. So keep trying new things, keep going after it. Don't be afraid to take a risk. Like, it is totally okay if you don't have a goal yet. And trust me, you are never too old to go after a goal. There's always, first of all, you guys are so young. I'm the one who's like 33 over here. You guys are so young. I mean, I know people that are in their 50s and 60s that go after a goal. There's always time to go after something you're passionate about. Let's see. I'm trying to, let's see. Let's see. Savannah said, you guys are great on questions. Savannah said, what would you do if you get your period in the middle of a sport? Well, Savannah, I did. So when I was 16 years old at the 2005 World Championships, I got my period the day before I was about to race. And And I did exactly what I'm telling you guys to do, right? I kind of embraced it. I was like, okay, this is happening. It's normal. It's totally fine. And, you know, I'm just going to focus on, you know, what my task at hand is, just to swim fast. And I didn't look at it as something that was going to pull me down or affect me. My mindset was focused on, you know, what was in front of me. So again, if you know, the more that you think about it, the more that it's like when you stub your toe. And if you were to think about all day that my toe hurts, right? Your toe's probably going to hurt a lot more than if you were like, yeah, all right, stub my toe, it sucks. Yep. But like, I've got things to do today. I've got homework to do. I've got to go hang out with my friends. Your toe would feel a lot different if you weren't really hyper focused on it. If that makes sense. Let's see, Kayla H had a question. Let's see. Kayla H says, how do you go swimming when you're on your period? So just talked about that. If you were to go back in time and change, would you change your goal or would you keep it? That is a great question. I would definitely not change my goal. I would not trade, you know, going after Olympic teams and Olympic medals for anything. You know, I've met some of my best friends because of it. I met, you know, my husband because of it. You know, it's definitely something I would never go back. Wouldn't trade it for the world. It's a great question. Allison says, can we please see your medals? Oh, my Olympic medals are in the car because I've been traveling a lot. So I'm sorry I don't have them, but you can kind of see some of my world championship medals, right? So there's like the three that look like, you know, like droplets of water. Those are the three that I got when I was on my period. So there you go. I didn't even plan that. Let's see. And then Nisha said, what are you doing now that you retired from swimming? It's a great question, Nisha. So I do a lot of public speaking. So I go around and I'll speak with, you know, companies and corporations. I work with a lot of swim teams as well for the strength and conditioning piece. So my husband and I have a business that helps athletes feel really strong and conditioned so that they're, you know, ready to go in the pool. They don't get injured. So that's been really rewarding. And I actually work with, this is how I met Miss Hall's mom. I speak with doctors because the reason my career ended was I got a pulmonary embolism in my lungs, which is a blood clot, which is pretty scary. And so I go around and raise a lot of awareness by speaking with different doctors and advocating for patients so that people understand that a blood clot can happen to everyone and not just to people that are older. So, great question, Nisha. Any other questions, guys? Questions. Kimberly, how do you build your self-discipline? That's a great question. So I think, I mean, it starts with a goal, right? Like if you don't have a goal that, like I mentioned, like scares you a little bit and you light up inside, it's going to be really hard to be disciplined to go after it, right? Like if I, for example, I have no interest in running. I have no interest in running a marathon. People who do, amazing. It's just not my goal that I'm connected to. So I have no self-discipline to run every day. I just couldn't make myself do it because it's not my goal. And so I think being able to establish that first, and then the kind of the second piece is building up little goals daily that hold you accountable, right? So for example, you know, with swimming, I knew that when I got in for practice, I had to keep a super tight streamline and kick 3 dolphin kicks off of every wall. That was a non-negotiable. So think about something that you're doing or a goal that you have or a goal that you might want and what day to day that requires. I think that keeps things going, and the more accountability you have, the more self-discipline you can have. So Allison says, Allison, I'm not going to the Olympics again. I retired in 2015 because of the blood clot. So 2 Olympics is going to have to be enough in my lifetime, unfortunately. And then Surya, I love this question. What advice would you give yourself if you meet yourself as a younger girl? So if I met me when I was younger, I would say live in the present. Like, I think as a young kid, I was always like, next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing, right? And I didn't really take time to sit there and soak in the moments that were so exciting, right? Like at my first Olympics, I was so worried about everything else, or, anytime I accomplished something, I didn't sit there and enjoy it, right? What's the point of working so hard if you can't sit there and enjoy it? So take your time in your life. You guys have plenty of time to be adults. You have plenty of times to grow up. But just live in the moment, enjoy it. And then the second part of the question, what obstacles did you hit as you were going through your journey? I had many obstacles. So I think just dealing with nerves, I was really someone who, that was a big struggle for me. Like I'm a very high strung person. I'm not easygoing. And so I struggled with handling not getting too nervous. And the way that I ended up combating that was just being so confident in my process, meaning my day-to-day work. I keep going back to that, right? The consistent day-to-day process, that I finally was able to look back on that and gain confidence and get a little bit less nervous so that I could perform. Marissa Ann says, what when you have your period, when you run or swim or sports, does it hurt or is it more mild? So I have had different experiences, right? When I was competing, it was definitely more mild. It wasn't super painful. Yes, I have definitely had, Shirley asks, I have had periods where it's been pretty painful, but again, it's my mindset of like, okay, this hurts, but I'm not going to let this get me down. Like I definitely voiced it. I definitely had that discomfort. But it's short, right? It's not going to be for weeks at a time. And I've just kind of kept that perspective and that thought, and kind of thinking like, okay, like I can push through this. I can do this, right? You got, I think the feeling of knowing that you know what it is, right? Like if you have like when I had my blood clot, I didn't know what that pain was. So it was terrifying because I was like, well, what does this mean? Like, this is, am I going to die? And like, you don't know. The positive about your period is you just know this is happening. It's happening every month. I'm healthy. I'm okay. It actually means you are really healthy when you have your period, right? So that's like that's an indicator that you are on the right track. So again, trying to think about that. I get it when it's like you have a really bad period and cramps, you're like, why does this have to mean that I'm healthy, right? But it does. It means you're healthy. Great question. So where do you do your public speaking? Do you have anything online? Great question, Nisha. I do public speaking all around. So for example, I have one in Chicago last month. I have one in Jacksonville, Florida in 2 weeks. I do some virtual speaking, kind of like this. But thank goodness that, COVID and the pandemic is kind of winding down to some extent, where it's allowing me to be able to meet people in person and in the flesh, which is I got to do in California with Miss Hall's mom. So it's been really great to be able to meet people and see people and talk to people, not through a screen, but actually in person. So I don't have anything online like recorded necessarily, but I do Zoom calls online. Great question. So Shirley, well, I hate that you're growing up. That's not good. We saw an ad so Cora and Sarah said, we saw an ad for period swimwear. Have you worn them? Do they work? No, I have not. I've not seen that. I would say I definitely was very much pro tampon. I actually was I was an advocate for Playtex Sport for a couple of years, just because my thought was I always wanted to not have to think about it. I think everyone has their own individual thing that works for them. So I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but for me, that was what works best. So again, finding what's most comfortable, what feels the best, what gives you the most confident that you're good to go and you're all set, I think is what you should select. So that's a great question. I can't speak to the swimwear if it works or not. That's something maybe you would want to do some more research on, because it's not something I've heard of. Kayla, did swimming change your period in any way compared to another girl that doesn't swim? Often hurt more or less? That's a good question. I actually think that because I was athletic, I think that I had it less bad. But again, like I've also had friends who were athletes and it was on the, the more intense side. So the thing about it is it's so individualized, right? Everyone's range is so different just based on, just like some people have brown hair versus blonde hair. Like it's just in your genetics of, how you process it, how you operate your hormones, all those things. And so it's hard to say one way or another. I'm also not a doctor, so I don't know. I do know that when I stopped, though, I will tell you when I was on a medication for my blood thinners, that's a side effect. And so it did get more heavy and it did get a little bit more intense. So I kind of got to experience the other side of it, of what that feels like, and kind of having to deal with maybe a more heavy side of cramping. So I've kind of experienced both throughout my life. Marissa Ann, are you speaking Nevada anytime by any chance? I'm not. I would love to. I actually might be speaking in September, but it's not for sure. So yeah, but if you know anyone, I'd love to fly out. Cool. Awesome. There's what about California? I mean, if you guys know anybody. It just kind of depends. Things pop up. I'm invited to speak to a company or to a convention, and I certainly love to come and share my story. I just don't have anything in California at this moment, but like I said, I'm always down to meet people. I love it. Cool. All right. Well, I know you guys got an agenda, but I just wanted to thank you guys so much for having me on. Really appreciate it. I have Instagram is KTHoff7. So please DM me with any questions you might have. I'm an open book. I do have an autobiography. It's called Blueprint. You can find it on my website that I can pop in here. So anything you guys need, I'm here to answer any questions. And yeah, have a great night, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much for your inspiring and intriguing presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Of course, of course. Well, nice work, guys. It was great to meet you all, and you're in very good hands with Miss Hall. You will, hope you guys have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
All right, bye.